Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to the next edition of STATURDAY Chat Live here on March 25th, 2023. I hope you are all doing so well today. It is a crazy day outside here. Bonkers wind, like I've been saying. The thing I noticed about climate change where I live is the wind, and it is crazy. So if you hear anything strange, it's actually coming from outside. So we're going to keep the live stream pretty tidy today because today, my family, we are celebrating my grandmother's 84th birthday. So the live stream kind of has to stay somewhat contained in terms of time because I got to drive down to where my family is, and we're going to celebrate her 84th birthday, which she turned 84 this week. So obviously excited that she's still with us and kicking, and it's doing great. So it's going to be that's today's schedule. All right, as always, a few things coming up. If you're watching on the restream, after the live stream, thank you for stopping by and coming back after the fact to watch. I do appreciate that. I'll try to keep everything that's newsworthy sort of up front, and then you can stick around for the conversation if you so choose. So the first thing that I should point out to you is that there will be a new video dropping tomorrow. So tomorrow morning-ish my time. So depending on where you are in the world, there'll be a new video out. Continuing the series on time series that I'm doing. It's on weighted moving averages. It took a lot of time to do. I'm pretty proud of it. A lot of visuals in it, and you will see that tomorrow. So please check that out. Share it with anyone that you think might benefit from it, and then onward we go. So I'm going to continue making videos on time series topics for the foreseeable future, and I might sneak in another topic here or there if I sort of see fit. But it's much easier, obviously, to continue making the same type of content on the same topics, because a lot of the materials can be reformatted and reused, some of the basic structure of it, and then just drop in some new concepts and content. So I'm going to keep doing that, and that is the plan, as we roll into almost April, which is crazy. It's already April for the most part. So yeah, new video on time series tomorrow, which is Sunday the 26th, here my time in the morning. So please check that out. What else is new? So this week there's been a lot of news this week, the past couple of weeks, about the new world we are living in. Of course, with the rise of generative AI. I do want to talk about that today a little bit and get some of your feedback on what you've been using it for, and kind of maybe see how you feel it might impact your work. Maybe not now, or where you might see it's going. So we can have a conversation sort of around that. So be thinking about that idea, because I do want to solicit some ideas and hear your experiences using it, or maybe you're not using it or whatever else. And we can talk about that topic because it's at the front of my mind, right now, especially as an educator. It has very big implications, doesn't it? So we'll see where it goes, and I want to get your ideas. Okay, so what have I been doing here? Let me pull up another screen in a second. Oh, so as always, if you're new to the stream, just to everyone's on the same page, please go ahead and put any comments, questions you have in the chat, and I go back, kind of go through them and answer the ones I think I can answer. Some of them I can't always answer live, just kind of off the top of my head, but I do the best I can. Also, if your name is not one that I'm used to, I will try to pronounce it properly, because you deserve that. So if I do make a mistake, I do apologize, but I do try. So obviously let me know where you're watching from. I love knowing where everyone in the world is watching from. And we'll go ahead and get started. So what have I been doing? I want to share a couple of things with you, and maybe we can start our topic. Share screen. Excuse me. Let's go over to this one. Yep, hold on. There we go. All right. Whoa, holy moly, what is that? Madness. That's so psychedelic. We don't want that. Don't know what that is. Let me see if I can move it over here. Which now, unfortunately, I can't see you. No idea what that was. Okay. Well, I'll try this one more time. If that doesn't work, then plan B. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There we go. All right. No more psychedelicness. So, what I've been working on in preparation for some new content eventually, as you know, I've been really hunkering down and learning R formally. So, I've been going through a lot of resources. We talked about that last live stream. I shared with all the viewers the resources I've been using to learn R. It's something I've always played around with or brought off the shelf when I needed a tool to solve something with, but I'm actually learning it now. So the one I'm learning now is this R graphics cookbook here. I'm almost done with it. So I think I'm actually in chapter 14 or so. So yes, this is what I'm doing now. And I do believe all these resources are in the description to this video already. So if you are interested in exploring some of those resources, they are there. But this is sort of what I'm doing, in preparation for my own skill set and in future videos on the channel. So those are there. I won't rehash everything we talked about last live stream because it's redundant, obviously, but they are in the description as far as resources go, okay? I am reading this book right now on the topic of AI. It's AI for educators. So as an educator myself, I'm trying to learn about its implications and opportunities and pitfalls, of course, with all these things for education itself. And maybe today we can talk about that a little bit, not only about education, but in general, how we think this is going to go and maybe how you've been using it as well, okay? So all the other stuff as usual. My website here has all the information that you would need if you're trying to find a certain video or a playlist. You'll see all those links up here at the top. There's a contact page. You can always email me a question if you have a question beforehand, and I'll try to get to that if possible. So my website is very basic, but if you need anything, it's there, of course. And I think that is it as far as what I wanted to share with you all. So let me stop the screen for now. We'll come back to the screen if need be. Okay. All right. So who do we got in the chat on the stream right now? Let's see. Me. Happy Saturday, of course. Steve says, thanks. It's the same to you. Thank you very much, my friend, Stephen. I hope you are doing well. Hope you are doing okay. All right. FC says, can't stay around because it's 1 a.m. here, but I love your video so much. Thank you very much, FC. I do appreciate that. I understand that you all are scattered all over the world, and it's an honor just to have a few minutes of your very valuable time. So if you can't always stay, that's completely fine. This is always on YouTube to rewatch later. So no problem. No problems. Shailendra, hope I'm saying that correctly. Good evening. Love from India. Love you back. As I always say on this channel, I love all of my viewers that are in India. And this channel, my channel, gets a lot of support from viewers in India, and I'm always very grateful for that. And thank you for stopping by. I know it's late over there. I think it's probably almost midnight over there, isn't it? So I do appreciate you stopping by, Shailendra. Thank you so much. Mikatesh, what's up, my man? What's up? What's up? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. Excellent. Awesome. So, yeah, any comments, questions, chat you have, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll start getting into those. So, like I said, one of the questions I'd like to maybe get some thoughts from you on, and I have my own thoughts, sort of course, is this new world we're living in and how it affects us personally, professionally, and in many other ways in this new world of generative AI. And of course, it affects all aspects of what we do. So I'm interested in your thoughts. So one question I have or thought I had for today is for me and you all to share some of your experiences or whatever using things like Chat GPT. It doesn't have to be Chat GPT. There are other similar AI based tools. It doesn't even have to be a conversational chat type tool. It can be something involving images or whatever else. And I'm just interested on what your experiences have been, what you think your experiences might be going forward, how it might impact you and your schooling or your job or society in general. What do you all sort of think about it? I'm really, right now, we're in this space where everything is happening so fast. It's like one of the first few times in my life where I really don't know what the next short period of time is going to be. It's like completely up in the air about how all this is going to pan out. And some things are happening in the span of hours or days, you know? So I'm curious on your thoughts and your experiences using these tools in whatever aspect of your life it might be, or what you think about, it in general, how it might affect us just as a species, I guess, So one thing I can tell you is that to get maybe this conversation going, we can go. It doesn't have to be about this. So if you have a question or comment about something else, feel free to put it in the chat. This doesn't have to be about this, but I thought this would be a good topic to talk about today because everything is going just batshit crazy about these generative AI tools. So the way I have been utilizing it up to now, and I did buy the plus or whatever it is, so I could actually use it because it's really hard to use if you don't have that. So the way I've been kind of using it up to this point is I think Microsoft branded it well in the way I use it, at least up to now. So they're kind of calling their AI stuff Copilot, right? So Copilot. And I think that is a very good way to describe how I'm sort of using these generative AI tools now. It's like a colleague, it's a collaborator, it is, a virtual sort of person I could bounce ideas off of and talk with and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I'm using it for. And my experiences using it have not been all positive at all. So I asked it some things. I asked it some coding type questions. First sort of coding and R type question I asked it, it did, pretty well. It was 90% of the way there. I had to ask it to make one or two changes, and it was fine. I asked it a different question, and it was a disaster. Like, it wasn't right at all. All the numbers being created were wrong. Then I would ask it to, no, that's incorrect. This should be changed. Then it would regenerate the response, and it'd be even worse. So, that second time I experienced it, it was a nightmare. It was crazy. Then I've kind of used it in other aspects to just provide some general feedback or to interpret some things that I kind of wanted it to comment on, and then I would follow up that conversation. Some of it's kind of like medical stuff or personal stuff I'm not going to talk about here. Nothing serious, but just a question. Asked it about sort of that, and went in there and did some other coding exercises in D3, and asked it to do some summaries and bullet pointing and stuff like that. So right now, these tools, I'm kind of using it, like I said, as a colleague or a collaborator to help refine and have a source to bounce ideas off of, So that's kind of what I'm using it for now. Now, as an educator, how will that impact me? Or any educator for that matter, So that's a very deep sort of question. And that's why I'm reading that book, AI in Education, right now, to try to get a sense on how to realize that it is the reality for all of us, whether we are an educator or a developer or an analyst or whatever. It's here. Not only is it here, it's going to evolve extremely quickly. So, I've always thought this too, and the book reiterated it, is that we tend to overestimate what something like this will do within the next few years, and we underestimate what it will do in 15 or 20 years. And I think that's kind of where we are right now, right? So I will say it's exciting to see how fast all this stuff is happening. I mean, it is just happening so freaking fast. It's crazy. So, yeah. So share your experiences, your thoughts on this sort of new era. And I don't think it's an understatement. Bill Gates came out with his 7-page letter. Other people have done some commentary on this. I don't think it's an understatement. And I'm not one for hyperbole to say that this really is one of the biggest most important um, inventions in the history of humankind. That's not a good or bad thing. It just is. And I think it's only going to get more so, you know? So, all right. So I have more thoughts on that, and we can talk about it as we go. I don't want some of you are putting comments in the chat, and I definitely want to get to those. So let's see here. So Steven says, I'm loving Chat GPT as a learning tool. I ask a question and then drill down. Absolutely. So that's something similar to what I was sort of doing. And it's really good at giving it a prompt, and then really the magic is in refining the prompt and asking it to make some modification or to change the level that it's written on or elaborate on a specific theme within that and get it to branch off or challenge it sometimes. When I was doing the coding examples and it was doing it very poorly, I would have to say, no, that's wrong. It should be sort of this. And then it would go back and say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is incorrect. And then it would, go try to do it again. So that is what I've been using it for. I'm writing a note down real fast. 1 second. All right. So yes, Stephen, that's kind of similar to what I've been doing, using it for in some senses. Now my question, Stephen, and to any of you all else in the chat, is using it been something that is like a new addition to your set of tools, or has it replaced something that you were doing before? So is it a substitution, or is it an addition to your or some modification to your tool set? That's one thing I'm interested in. Okay. So looking at the chat here. Yeah, there are some other topics in the chat. I'm going to get to those here in a second, but I want to stay on this topic just for a little bit longer. So yeah, elaborate on what you've been sort of using it for. So Venkatesh says, I tried using ChatGPT for few resource YouTube links, but the links provided were not working, maybe outdated. It may be good to use if you want to know quickly some concepts instead of Google. Yeah, so a couple of things. There's a lot of interesting things in that comment, Venkatesh. One, I think the latest version of ChatGPT, the latest training data it was on was in 2021, I think, maybe. So it's possible that if it provides a resource to a website or a link or something like that, that it's no longer there or functioning. That's one drawback. And I actually have a really, really deep concern about this, and I'll share with you in a second, is because it's using older training data in the model, it can supply a resource maybe that's no longer there. And here's a question. I'd like to get your all feedback on this. So if these models are trained on data and information that we humans have provided it in the past, what happens to these models when and if we slow down or stop producing that fundamental data for new models to be trained on, because now we're inside the model doing stuff? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It's like the source material is running dry and there's not as much there, or there's not updated material for the model to learn on, because now we're all in the model asking it questions. So the one example I've seen is resource sites like community boards, whatever else, that provide people help. So Stack Overflow is obviously a really important one for a lot of us in here. So if these models are out scouring public websites like Stack Overflow or whatever else, and it learns all the stuff there, so people start going to the language model to ask it questions. Therefore, there's no one really going to the source material why would anyone keep making the source material? You know what I'm saying? Hope all that makes sense. So in a system that relies on information that we have created in the past, just through our daily activities on the web and whatever else, what happens when we slow that down or stop doing that because now we're in the model? You know, um, so thoughts, But yeah, that's one thing. Um, and now to your second point, Venkatesh, it may be good to use if you want to quickly some concepts instead of Google. Like I said, this stuff's happening so fast. Yesterday, they released the plugins for GPT that allow it, among other things, to go out to the web. And of course, Bing has it integrated through the Bing search, which is really good, by the way. I think they did a really good job with that. Um, so, so the addition of the plugin technology that they released yesterday, and God, who knows what will happen on Monday? They'll probably release something new. Will allow it to go out and find other existing material that's more recent, that has happened since the end of the training data, I think, which is what was in 2021. So crazy, 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 crazy. It is very exciting, crazy exciting, but it's also scary and the unknown because there's no guardrails, right? Like this is like there's no guardrails around this really. To my knowledge, there's no real regulation around it or no rules around it or whatever. So who knows what's going to happen? All right. So Stephen says, yeah, see, it is a substitution for books in many cases. Very, very interesting. You know, it's really good at, in my experience, summarizing and like bulleted point out certain elements, you know, of books. But I will say, and you all might disagree, and that's fine. You're not here to agree with everything I say, and vice versa. That's fine. This is a conversation, so we'll just converse. Is that, as you all know, I read a lot. I read a ton of full-length books. Right now, I'm reading at least two. I'm reading the AI for Education book, and I'm reading a book called, I'm pretty sure it's called Breathless. I might have the title. Actually, I have it in my thing here. Yeah, Breathless. So I'm also reading this. It has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but I will share it anyway. So I'm also reading this book. It's Breathless. It's kind of about, I read a lot of books. I read a lot of, during COVID, I read a lot of books on infectious disease, and I knew once COVID kind of subsided a bit, there would be books like anthological books about the beginnings of it and stuff like that over, you know, later in time. So this is the one that I'm reading now. The reason I bring this up is not because of that necessarily. It's because when I read books, it's not necessarily the reading of the book that's the joy for me. It is the fireworks going off inside my brain and sometimes my emotions. So reading the full-length book, the full narrative of the book, is an experience for me on certain topics that I want, right? So for me, I don't think it's going to replace reading the books like that one and the other ones that I really want to read, but it might be a good tool for paring down or summarizing stuff that maybe I don't want to read or that I'm being forced to do, and I can, you know, really condense it down. So it's the same thing with writing. So the beauty of writing isn't necessarily the writing itself, it's the thinking that you're doing while you're doing the writing. It's the mental work. So yeah, I mean, it can be a substitution for books in many cases, but I'm curious what you all sort of think, and you know, it's one of many use cases, you know, for it. All right, next comment on this. Let's see. Bankawa says learning statistics with R often asked ChatGPT about the syntax of specific functions. Very useful. Yep. compared to Googling and browsing through the forum. It can be when it gets it right. Like I said, the first time I used it for that very purpose, it did pretty good. The next time I asked it to do something which was similar to the first, it was completely wrong, like completely botched. The numbers weren't even close. You would look at the code and the logic and think, well, that should work. But when you run it, and it ran it itself, it doesn't work. So that was R. So I'm not sure if it may be better with Python. I think it's built on Python actually. But yeah, I mean, it can be. It can be, and it will get better, I'm sure. But my experiences with the code aspects of it so far have been mixed, I will say. I did some D3 graphics in there. It did pretty good with that. Now, I will say, though, I had to go, if I wanted a working sort of graphic that I was going to use, I would have had to go in to the D3 and make modifications to get it to do exactly what I wanted to do. So I think seeing as a co-pilot is something that can get me, half the way, 3/4 of the way, maybe 90% of the way to the final product I would want to do, is sort of where I see it playing a role now. And then I personally put the final finishing touches on it, or customizing it a bit more to my unique application. That's kind of what I'm using it for now, and what I kind of see it being used for now. Okay. Yeah, and I do keep wondering if they are absorbing things like Wikipedia, exactly, which they get for free, and reformatting it and giving it back to me without credit to the source. Yeah, so that's a good point. I don't know exactly what they used to train that model on in the past. I do know that when I did see the plugin technology yesterday, when it would go out to the web, and Bing does this, the Bing version of it does this too, is that it would actually provide a source. So it would put like a little footnote next to the source where it got it from, so you could go out to the full source and read more or verify it for yourself or whatever else it might be. But yeah, I mean, look, when you put anything on the web publicly like that, it's open for scraping and crawling and learning and whatever else. Again, I don't know exactly what they trained the model on, whether it was that or something else, but it is true. It's like having this incredible, customizable search type of tool in there that may have stolen content from other areas. Maybe, I don't know. So all right. Sanjay says we can easily fool GPT if we say 2 + 2 = 5. Then again, that's what it says, 5. Yeah, I've seen those before, and I think that the newer versions are supposed to be better at that. So I think 3 or 3.5 was very susceptible to being hoodwinked like that. I think this new one is a bit better, but I haven't gone back and retried that experiment in GPT-4. So if anyone else has and got a result, let me know. But yeah, that's one of the things. And I will say, one of my fears is that individuals will go in, not to this, extent, but people will go in and ask it a question or have it do a code block or whatever else, and then just copy and paste it without thought into whatever they're working on. And then it's like, well, did it get it right? I guess. Maybe not. I don't know. So for example, the code block I asked it, if I were to actually try to use that, well, one, it wouldn't have worked, right? But if it worked enough where I couldn't catch what it was doing wrong, and then I put that into a final working thing, I'd be hosed, right? So luckily the error was so egregious, I could see it. But, if it makes a minor error, I might not see or pick up on, and I put that into like a final product or a code or whatever else, disaster. So, I don't know. We will see. So yeah, whatever thoughts. Let's see. I'm going to get to know some of you put other topics in the chat. I am going to get to those, so bear with me. Von Kyle said, yeah, maybe I'm just a beginner using a simple function. Maybe. You know, um, that's the other thing too to think about when, especially for coding type projects. Not only does GPT evolve very quickly, but so does the underlying code that is used in those tools. So obviously, if you're using R gets updated all the time. The packages get updated all the time. Some of them don't get updated at all. So GPT might recommend a package you use that doesn't even work anymore, or it works but doesn't work with the newer versions of R. So you have all this stuff is changing. Everything is moving. Everything is moving. There's nothing fixed. And when we're trying to build a tool like this, it can cause problems, right? And of course, if there's been anything new since the model was trained, it ain't going to be part of the model, as some of you have found out. So, yeah, I mean, it is a mind-bending thing. And that's not just the whole other stuff about stuff that's just not real. I mean, the personal story is that, I'm kind of like, as you might expect, sort of in my family, I'm sort of the tech person, right? So people ask me questions about computer questions, if they have a problem with it or their phone or whatever else, they call me. So when this came out, the first thing I did was hop on a group text message to everyone in my immediate family. I got to explain to them sort of what this is, and tell them that that they might be seeing and hearing things that aren't real. They might be getting emails that look very real that aren't real, or texts or calls that aren't real, because this stuff is so good. And then lo and behold, you have examples of scammers using it. You have the pictures of Donald Trump being arrested that looked very real. You have, other type of deep fake type stuff that's happening. It's question reality itself. So it is tough. Okay, we'll get back to this. If you still have any thoughts or comments or questions, based off this revolutionary time we're living in with the generative AI. I also used it for some media tasks, like audio and video I can share with you later. But yeah, just if you have any more thoughts on that, put it in the chat. We'll get back to it. But I do want to make sure I get to other people's comments that they had about other things. Okay. All right. So I'll take this off for now, and I will come back and put it on. All right. So Sanjay asks, can you suggest me a book for stats for practice problems that will help me for machine learning? Is there other problems in here? Yes. So the ISL book is probably a good fit for you, and it's free. So the Introduction to Statistical Learning with R. Now it has R. I'm not sure if there's any Python version or whatever else, but this is a good book that mixes the stats, the math, and the code here, and it's free. Okay, so this is there might be a new version out since this one was printed, but you get a little bit of everything in here. Okay, so you get all the code, you'll get all kinds of fun math in here. It's not too bad, but you'll get, some math. And explanations, of course. So this might be my best recommendation if you're going to go in to do stuff like that, if you also want problems that go along with it. Now, I will say I'm not sure. I assume they have the answers to the questions somewhere, but I don't think they're in this actual book. You might want to check on that. So yeah, this is my recommendation for you if you want to go into that, because it mixes. it mixes a little bit of everything. Now, another one I can recommend is this one. So, Machine Learning with Python for Everyone. This is a great book. I read this book. I didn't do all the code in it necessarily, but this is a really good book if you're more sort of into Python. So this is very, very good. Same type of thing. Has all the code stuff in here and so on and so forth. I'm learning R at the moment, so that's why I use the other stuff. But yeah, you can see all the things in here. So this may be, if you're in the Python camp, at least for right now, is a good one. So it's by Mark Fenner. I can put a link to it in the chat. One second. So you can have it. There it is. So this is the link to that book. If you are in the Python side of things. There we go. All right. So there's some good books for you. I have plenty of books. Plenty of books. All right. Shalindra says, any plan for creating a playlist on MCDM in the future? You're gonna have to tell me what exactly that is, because I don't have all the acronyms committed to memory, nor do I use them all the time. Sorry for being demanding. So tell me what that is exactly. I mean, I could look it up, but hopefully you're in here and we can talk. I can tell you for right now, I'm focusing on the time series playlist. So if I were to do something outside of that, assuming this is that, then if I do it, it won't be for a while. Because YouTube is not my full-time job. So it is what I do when I have spare time or on the weekends. Haresh, hello, hello. Hello, hello. This question, data analyst versus app development in terms of salary. Right now, I can't really say, I'm not as in tune to the going salaries in certain fields sort of at this stage. I just always encourage people to do something that they enjoy and they're passionate about, and then the opportunities will come. So, instead of chasing a salary per se, and I know that's easy to say. I mean, it's easy to say that, right? But in general, if you follow whatever passion or interest you have, the salary stuff tends to happen naturally. What else we got here? Okay. So, Amadin, hope I'm saying that correctly. Hello, Brandon. Thank you. I wish all the best. I have one question. Would you please summarize what best analysis can be done for non-normalized data? You have two primary options. You can transform the data into a more normalized data set using data transformations, and then use parametric techniques, or you can use non-parametric techniques to summarize those. So I have a whole playlist on non-parametric techniques. The sign test, Wilcox signed rank test, Friedman test. There's all kinds of non-parametric tests that you can use on non-parametric data that's not normal. Or you can transform it mathematically, just depending on your application, or you can do both. There's no rule that says you can't use different techniques. You just have to document which ones you're using so the end user knows what you did. So those are the two main options: transformations and non-parametric methods. Okay. Karthik asked, so hi Brandon, we like your works. One small suggestion, would you be able to include industry level statistical training, like banking, pharma, etc.? For example, statistics is used in credit risk in banks. So, so the work I do on YouTube and just in general is more just in general. It's basically business statistics, honestly. It's not really niched down to a specific field like finance or pharma or whatever else. So, there are obviously lots of resources and people who do specialize in those things, but my work tends to be, for students who are just getting into statistics, are intimidated by it, and just need a good learning resource in general. So I probably won't niche down or get too specific on a topic. I mean, I see time series forecasting as like a niche down in a way. It's like taking a chapter out of a stats book and then exploring that. But I don't think in terms of like a subject discipline type area like you're listing here, I would probably do anything more specific in that sense. One, because that's not my primary goal or purpose or interest. And two, I don't have the expertise necessarily to really get that specific about something. And of course, many of the things that we learn are applicable in many places. So I tend to be of the mindset that I offer as many people the most benefit as possible. And then if they want to go learn something more specific and niche down, then they have the foundation to go do that. That's sort of my philosophy. Let's see here. Hi, Brandon. Could you please tell me what amount of how algebraic topology is used in machine learning? I know basic point set topology, but I want to go for machine learning research. My background is an applied math master's. So I will fully admit that when you talk about algebraic topology, I'm not exactly sure what you sort of mean by that. I'm not a math major or anything, or don't have super advanced math courses. And when I did have math courses, that's 20 years ago, or longer than 20 years ago. Now I will say that I always tell people if they want to go into more of the mathematics of machine learning and stuff like that, so much of it is matrix operations, right? Tons and tons of matrix operations. So matrix algebra, all things that go with that, eigenvalues, eigenvectors, that kind of stuff. There's a whole, I think it's based on matrix algebra. But I will say, not being a math master's student or anything like that, there's more to it than I know. So, I'm trying to think here. I think I have a book. Yeah. Shit. Let me see here. I don't know. This might be too basic for you. So you all seen this book. Everyone's seen this book. Everyone should have this book on their, if they do this stuff, they should have it on their bookshelf at least as a reference. So, but it's not super, not a whole lot of content in it. So I might not be able to help you too much out on that one, unfortunately. But that happens. Okay. Moving on. You have any book suggestions for building dashboards, most advanced charts? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I can find it. I got two of them. There's actually a third one. I have a third one, but I don't know where the hell I put it. So the one book I always recommend for people is this one. Is this one right here. So that's one I definitely recommend. And it is here. Right here. So I highly recommend this one, just in general. So it really goes into, a lot of the sort of the background and fundamental ideas in building data visualizations. So this one right here, it's pretty much a standard book at this point, and it will kind of teach you a lot of things that may not have thought about before. So I think, I think she worked at Google, I believe. So that's one I can definitely recommend. The other one I can recommend is this one. It's the Big Book of Dashboards here, by Wexler Jeff Schaefer, who actually teaches down the road from me. So this one is great. I'll send this link here as well. So these are two I definitely recommend. I have another one somewhere, but I was reading it, so I don't know where I put it. So these are two great books for, you know, getting into the dashboarding. Not only, you know, the dashboarding itself, but just like the theoretical side of it and why we do what we do in certain dashboards and some of the things to avoid when doing dashboards. So yeah, but this book here especially is just a massive, beautiful gallery of dashboards. I mean, it's just everywhere. And then of course you can find dashboard information inside books that deal with a specific tool, like a Tableau book or a Power BI book. But those you might be better. There's some great, if you have access to it, there's some great, and some of them are free, great courses on LinkedIn Learning for Tableau and Power BI. Of course, I think they have their own training you can do. Microsoft and Tableau themselves have training you can do on the two tools, and they will integrate some of the ideas about building dashboards in the software training that you're doing. So you can do that as well. Okay. So I would definitely recommend those two books. They're pretty much standard. And if you want to go back in time and learn more about dashboarding, the Tufte, Tufte books are also very good. And there are many others, but these are the ones I just sort of tend to have if you really want to like learn about data dashboards in general. Okay. Go back to me. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Okay. Here we go. So I was taught to perform univariate analysis first, then progress to multivariable regression. Absolutely. Which video should I look for in Stats 101 to have more understanding concept about this topic? So there are two playlists you will want to consult. Let's see here. Pull this up. Okay. So what you want to do is look at these. So on these topics, and these are my more popular playlists, by the way. So you have simple regression here, multiple, and then logistic. Okay. So you just do those right in a row. So simple, multiple, logistic. And then if you want to do more beyond that, there's more down here. So once you get past, we'll take your comment out of the way because it's blocking this. Once you get down here, you get past logistic, and then you can go into covariance, nonlinear, which the way I define nonlinear regression is regression that's not a straight line. I know there's another type of nonlinear regression that's different. And then model building and stuff. So if you just kind of go 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe 18, 20, that's a good path to take through regression, from simple all the way up through more advanced topics. Okay. All right. Dun, 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 dun. So I think I did, Sanjay. I shared those links right below your comment here in the chat. The Big Book of Dashboards and Storytelling with Data. Those are both there for your perusal. All right. Big chest. Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. You are very, very welcome. Yeah, data viz is a big topic area, but if you're looking at dashboards, those two are good. The courses you'll find on LinkedIn Learning especially, Udemy of course, but I also think they have free courses at Microsoft and Tableau and trainings that just are there. So, all right. You are very, very welcome. Vankawa, you are very, very welcome. Yeah, most of the playlists are in order. So they're in order in terms of like, they're in order as playlists. So they get progressively more advanced as you go, but also inside the playlist, they get more progressively. So obviously, if you start with basic linear regression, it's gonna be at the very, very beginning, like you've never heard of linear regression before and don't know what it is. And then as you go throughout that playlist, it'll get more advanced, more nuanced as you go. Also, I should point out to you, Vankawa, that if you are following along with those and you come to a problem that has a data set that goes along with it, it's all here on my website. So if you go through my website here, you'll find the file that goes along with that video. You can download it and follow along if you want to. Okay. So yeah, so you'll see the multiple regression one here, standard error one, and ANCOVA. Yeah. So a lot of my videos have Excel file. You can the file I use, you can download and use it. So it's right here. All right. Back to here. Oh, have I been sharing that? Yeah, here. Sorry. I was clicking around something I didn't think I shared. So, yeah, Bankawa, here are the files you can download. If you find a video that has a file, you find the file here on my website. It's very simple. Okay. All right. Sanjay asks, what is your opinion on GPT versus Google Bard? My experience has been, I don't have access to Bard yet, so I really can't say. I'm on the wait list for it, but I don't have access to Bard. From what I've heard and read and watched, it is evident that OpenAI is way, way ahead on Google on this. So at least when it comes to, a sort of strict chat bot sort of setup. Now I will say there's probably some things that the Google one could do maybe a little bit better, might have a little bit more personality. Also because Google will integrate it. They already have integrated it into their suite of products. It will be Google Bard will exist primarily as a feature tool, I think, as part of the Google suite of apps. That's like its purpose. So it will be geared sort of towards that. Whereas like in Microsoft's case, like ChatGPT came first, and then they kind of, invested in it and went along with that. So I'm sure over time, I mean, it's Google, right? So I'm sure over time it'll be good. The one challenge that Google has that like Microsoft and stuff doesn't is that in a way, these generative AI systems go at the heart of their business. So I mean, imagine you're in ChatGPT, you put the web plugin in there, and you can search the entire web from within ChatGPT and not be bombarded with advertisements and potential spam and all this other kind of stuff. So Google kind of has, Google's in a rock and a hard place because the more advanced some of this stuff gets, whereas they get most of their money off ad revenue, if a stripped down tool like GPT can provide the same information without all the crap, that goes against like their business. That's they're trying to like do two things at once. So like a Microsoft really doesn't have that. Microsoft has Bing and there's Bing advertising and stuff, but that's not the core of their business at all. So it doesn't really, as we say where I'm from, doesn't really chap their ass because the majority of their business is not advertising. So they have a bit more freedom than Google does because of the business model difference. But in terms of just technical proficiency, obviously I'm sure Google will catch up, of course. It is Google after all. But how it gets integrated and used might be a bit different because of their different business model. So Karthik asks, is there a good source which can guide me in converting the probability that we obtain in logistic regression to scores? What do you mean by convert into scores? So like, obviously when you do a logistic regression, you're going to get that probability on the sigmoid sort of curve about the probability of it being in one class or the other on the sigmoid S curve. Um, like all of these sorts of things, it's just an algebraic equation, so you can actually run it backward. You can run it backward, and I want to say I do that in my logistic regression playlist. I'm almost positive I had to, right? It's been a long time ago. So I think if you go into this playlist, playlist 16. If you go into playlist 16, I'm pretty sure I do that at some point, where we run it. We get the sort of propensity, the probability at the end, and we go backwards, okay, to an original original score. Now you'll probably be imputing at that point, but it's in there, I'm pretty sure. Be careful with odds ratios, though. Odd ratios don't really mean anything to a user. So either talk in terms of probability or original scores. We get lost in the odds ratio type stuff. All right. Okay. I'll wrap this up here soon. So if you have any last minute questions, thoughts, comments on anything we've talked about today, now's the time to put them in the chat, because I'll address those next, and that will probably be the end of the stream for today. But of course, we'll be back in a couple weeks. So Venkatesh says many universities are placing restrictions on using Chat GPT because students started using to solve assignments, case studies. It's a huge dent on students' creativity. Yep. I mean, this is what I do for my day job, right? So my company creates content for college students. That's sort of the side of the business I work on. The thing is that this is not anything new. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. So, in my fields, in the field of statistics and data science and stuff like that, it may or may not have as much effect, because we give students a lot of algorithmic problems. The numbers change. There are millions and millions of variants for some of the problems. So by the time they would actually try to go in and mess around with that, they could have just done the problem. But I do think, in writing classes and stuff, that might be a bit more of a challenge. But like I said, I am reading through this book right now. Actually, I read some this morning. So I am reading this book right now. I'll put this link in there if you want to check it out. It's cheap. So there are ways to change the way we teach and assess teaching, and the way we figure out if a student is learning, to sort of either one, get around the GPT stuff, or use it as a tool to help amplify learning, right? So this book that I shared the link in the chat, and I shared with you here now, attempts to do that, right? So I'm about not halfway quite through it, quite yet. I don't agree with everything this author says necessarily. I've been teaching for a long time in different levels, but I do think like this stuff is here. It's not going anywhere. So we just have to learn how to live with it and maybe change the way we think about it. It's hard to be a teacher with this kind of stuff right now, because you have to teach now, but you also have to prepare your students for 5-10 years down the road. So you can't like ban this sort of thing, because this is going to be the student's reality. So it's a really tough, thing right now to try to get the right balance with these things. But I think banning this stuff is a mistake. Because obviously as soon as the student leaves, they have access to it. They have their phones with them. They can access it there. It's just one of those things we have to learn how to live with, and learn how to maybe change the ways we teach and assess. Maybe the whole grading, grades, we got to think about. How do we measure a student's proficiency? How do we measure their thinking on the fly, on the spot? Because look, when out in the real world and stuff, we don't have time to like pull up our phones or computers and say, oh, I'm going to ask GPT how to do this thing. We have to be able to think on our feet. We have to be able to like, problem solve in real time and be creative in real time. And that's, that's not going to, GPT's type stuff is not going to do that for us in that moment, but it can help us get the muscle memory and experience to do that in real time as an amplifier to that. So this is one of the things I'm really thinking about almost right now, every moment of every day. I'm thinking about this stuff. But banning it is a mistake, I think. All right, so Steven says, your videos have helped me a ton. Thank you very much. Oh, you are very welcome. You have helped me more than you know. I appreciate being able to help people. That's what I do it for. That's sort of my mission my mission on the channel is to take whatever talents and gifts and experience and privileges and skills I have and turn them around and help other people doing something that I myself enjoy. And although I can't do it full time, I do it when I can. And hopefully it's, it'll help. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's the thing too, educational content on things like YouTube and stuff may become obsolete with what we're experiencing now. It might. And that's just something I will have to live with, right? So, but I do think there will always be people who want to learn like the way you can learn on YouTube or LinkedIn Learning or Udemy. There will always be like a market for that type of learning, but I don't know if it will be less, different, whatever else. We'll see. We'll see. Riley said, you're doing a great job on this channel. I know for sure that hundreds of people in my university follow your works. Good. Thank you. Oh, great. What university is that? Let me know if you're still in the chat. But yeah, that's one great way to help the channel, everyone, is to, like, if you're in a university setting, of course, but it doesn't have to be, but, share the channel with your classmates, your colleagues, your friends, share it in your social media type stuff if people have that interest. Or whatever, wherever else, spread the word on the channel, and that just helps a lot. So, yeah, appreciate that. Ruby asks, hey Brandon, since you've quite an experience in data science, could you tell me if a pure math student should go for a master's in data science, or would it be better to choose a master's in math itself? Well, that all really depends on what do you want to do. So the latter option, like having a master's in math itself, is going to be a little bit narrower, I think, path in terms of what it might be just as rewarding, but the path might be a bit narrower in what you sort of do. When you get a graduate degree in a very specific discipline like that, you tend to like go on to get a PhD in that discipline, become a researcher in a university setting or whatnot. Some people with those types of degrees do end up at places like right up the street from me, right up here, is a massive Procter & Gamble, P&G, Procter & Gamble Research Center. So they employ a lot of students who have graduate degrees in mathematics. Where if you go to sort of the data science route, that's going to be obviously more computing if you have experience in that. It's going to be a little bit more application sort of based, more, I don't know, I hate to use the word practical because math is very practical, but it really depends on what you what you want to do. It's also the market dynamics. Right now, is the market flooded with data science graduates without, places to find a job? Or in the market, because mathematics, pure mathematics itself is so much more specialized and niche that even though the market is smaller, the demand is higher, right? So it just depends on what you want to do and what you see yourself doing in 5-10 years and what will make you happy. And yeah, I mean, it's really that sort of simple. And I will say, since you have a math background, either one of those is a good path. I think the data science route will require a lot of programming, so it just depends on whether or not you have some computer programming experience. Sanjay says, try the book AI the 21st Century by Lucy and copy. I'm going to put that in my Amazon right now. AI in the 21st. There it is. Got it. So I think, is this it? Right here? Yep, that's it. Yep, that's it. So yeah, I'll add this to my list. Okay, got that there. Add to list. There we go. All right. So it says, thank you, excellent. Indian Institute of Technology, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I actually hear I've come across several people that are from there, I believe. So excellent. And Ruby says, thank you. You are very, very welcome. So yeah, I mean, like I said to a previous comment in this chat, don't underestimate your own passions and interests when you're choosing a vocation. I know we all need money, and I mean, I live it. You know, we all have to make a living and pay the bills and stuff like that. But don't underestimate being happy in whatever you choose to do, because over time, no amount of money, well, there's very little amount of money that can replace being happy and having a sense of purpose doing what you're sort of doing. And always sort of look down that path first before thinking about suffering to earn, you know, $10,000 more if you're here in the US. So, so Jeffrey asked me, if you want to be a video game designer, what college would you go to? Oh, goodness. That's way out of my realm. There was, what is it? I'm going to guess, yeah. So that's what I thought. So a lot of this here in the U.S., schools on the West Coast, so USC, University of Southern California, is good. UC Santa Cruz is good. And then on the East Coast, you have like Rochester is good. Northeastern and Boston is good. NYU is good. So there is several. Here, let me put this. I'll put this in the chat. I'm not going to put that in the chat. That's crap. I'm not really big on these sort of lists, but Jeffrey, this is for you. You want to take a look at this list? Here you go. Oh, Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon is really expensive and really good. They also have great educational technology stuff. So Carnegie Mellon is real good. Oh yeah, and Georgia Institute of Technology. So GIT is good. So, and it's a lot cheaper. So Georgia Institute of Technology, it's in the top 3, and I've heard of it before. It's a good program, and it's a lot cheaper. So you might check out Georgia Institute of Technology, assuming you're here in the U.S. But they probably have international stuff too, or out-of-state type stuff. So you might give that. Which is Georgia. It's at Georgia Tech. I believe it's at Georgia Tech. All right. Okay, everybody. Well, like I said, we're going to celebrate my grandma's birthday today. She's 84 this week, which we're excited about. So I'm going to wrap up the chat. And yeah, so in a couple of weeks, come back with, you know, if you're in there playing around with ChatGPT and other type of generative AI tools like I am, please come back in a couple of weeks to share more of your experiences. I'm going to have some more of those too. I'm going to have some more things to share in other realms as well. I've been playing around with Midjourney and some other type of tools. So we'll be doing that. And yeah, so a couple of last minute questions here. I have some doubts about regression. Where can I solve those doubts? On my channel, playlist 14, 15, and 16, Sanjay. Playlists 14, 15, 16 are all about regression. And you can watch them all the way through, or just click around the playlist and find the topic that you need. Mega test with the collapse of SVB and Credit Suisse. Are we heading for a long-term recession? Long-term, probably not. But the problem is the problem right now that central banks are in is that the medicine for inflation is the poison for banks. So, like what happened, with the fundamental sort of thing, at least with SVB and stuff like that, is that with inflation high post COVID, supply chains are still stretched. There's not enough supply to meet demand. So, with inflation, up, Federal Reserve has to raise interest rates. The problem is when they raise interest rates, the value of the long-term bonds in the bank go down. So, when depositors come to get their money out of the bank has to sell bonds that are they're worth less than what their par value is, and they're screwed. So, if the Fed raises interest rates, the value of the bonds go down. That makes the banking situation worse. Whereas if they don't raise interest rates, inflation keeps going high, and we're just in this spiral. So they're really between a rock and a hard place, because of the financial system we're sort of in. But I wouldn't think that we're headed for a long-term recession, but some sort of shallow recession might be necessary. But the problem is the banking situation makes that all very tough to manage. I don't envy people who have to literally, like, the solution will be you will have to purposefully put people out of work to get inflation back under control. Just a mess. So I could talk about that stuff all day. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you all so much for stopping by the live stream here today. We'll be back in 2 weeks, barring anything bizarre happening. That will be April 8th, same time, same place. So come back then and be ready to chat. All right, so I will see you all later. Thank you so much. Take care, you and your loved ones, and I will see you again soon. Be safe, be careful, and be happy.